Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be talking about Svetlana Alexievich, the 2015 Nobel laureate in literature. Svetlana Alexievich was born on the 31st of May in 1948 in the Soviet Union, in the territory that today belongs to Ukraine. Her father was Belarusian, her mother Ukrainian, and she writes in Russian. She has been writing since middle school, and today she is an essayist, an investigative journalist, as well as an oral historian. She's one of the really interesting people on my list of female Nobel laureates in literature. As far as I can tell, she is very active in political life, so much so that in 2020 she needed to leave Belarus for Germany because a political group that she was associated with was so heavily policed, basically, that she had to flee the country. So she's definitely an interesting person to check out, and her literature reflects her political view on life. A lot of them are focusing on really important historical events, such as the Second World War, the Russian-Afghanistan War, as well as what we will be discussing today, the Chernobyl catastrophe. Svetlana Alexievich won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 2015 for her polyphonic writings, A Monument to Suffering and Courage in Our Time. Today we will be discussing her book, Voices from Chernobyl, The Oral History of a Nuclear Disaster. The book was originally published in 1997, approximately 11 years after the catastrophe, and the American translation by Keith Gessen was published in 2005. I would like to begin talking about this book by reading out a short passage from the very beginning, where we get a historical note from the author, so that we can all know what Chernobyl is about, in case we forgot like I did, or if you've never learned so much about it that you would just immediately know what we're talking about. So, I quote, "On April 26, 1986, a series of explosions destroyed the reactor in the building that housed energy block number 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power station. The catastrophe at Chernobyl became the largest technological disaster of the 20th century." The Voices from Chernobyl, an oral history of a nuclear disaster, is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a series of interviews conducted with survivors and people impacted by this nuclear catastrophe at Chernobyl, and it lets us engage with a horrible historical event through something more than just dry facts and something more than a fictional story, which is the true but human stories of the people who went through this horrible time. This book puts a lot of focus on the impact of the disaster, which a lot of people might not know about. I certainly did not know before reading this book, that the Chernobyl catastrophe, as far as percentages go, impacted Belarus more than any other country. 20% of the population and 23% of the land got contaminated with radioactive materials when the catastrophe happened, and so Belarus really took the brunt of this horrible event in history, and they still have incredibly high rates of cancer that is related to radioactive activity. And so this tragedy impacted Belarus in a way I've never really considered before, and so this book really made me think about the people living in Belarus, which is a comparable country both in size and in population to my home country, Hungary. As I mentioned, this book consists of retellings and of course like an edited version of people's own accounts of what happened to them and how they lived through the Chernobyl catastrophe. And what I found incredible about it is how humanizing it was, how much I felt like the author asked me to care, and how much I've learned about everything that happened through these stories that I wouldn't have retained were I to read an article or even an entire book about the catastrophe. I personally found this book incredibly difficult to read on an emotional level. I cried a lot while reading it. Some of these stories are horrifying, so if you don't have the emotional bandwidth to witness some truly horrible fates, maybe this is not the book for you at the moment. But if you are curious about what it is like to go through the unthinkable, to go through something that no one was prepared for and that your country was definitely not prepared for, then this could be a fantastic book for you. As well as if you would just like to humanize this point in history for yourself, if you know the facts but you don't know the people's stories, then this could be an incredible and enlightening read. I would advise readers' discretion, basically. It is very heavy, there's a lot of gore and true gore in it, which makes it even more visceral. Stories of people in hospital going through horrible things relating to radiation poisoning, but also just human cruelty. So this is a heavy book to read, not just on an emotional level, but also the sort of physical events that it describes can be really horrifying to read about. This book was a really interesting read, especially compared to Hong Kong's story that also discussed neither of these books are about war, but they are both about human lives being touched by a horrible event in history. And one of the things that really fascinates me is how incredibly sad most of the books are that I'm reading for this project. There is definitely a theme of sadness and connecting with some of the most horrific parts of human nature being rewarded by the ethos of this prize. There is definitely an underlying idea that even if one was to write incredible prose, if that prose is about more cheerful topics, or if the purpose of that prose is not to interrogate the human condition, it is very unlikely to receive a Nobel Prize. So some of these books that are incredibly deep and that look, let's say, they look into the abyss, are now not necessarily as well known, or they are almost easily forgotten because they are engaging with such terrible things that most of us have this instinct to look away rather than to engage with these things. And there's a reason for that. This is incredibly difficult to bear witness of. So I would only really recommend reading books from all the Nobel laureates if you have a thick skin and you're interested in really horrible events and in really sad books, because most of these are not very sunshiny. And at the same time, that is the essence. And when I started reading all of these books, I was wondering what might be the common theme in these books, what might be connecting a book like Human Acts from Hong Kong with a book such as this, Voices from Chernobyl. And I am finding that this curiosity and incredible prose describing something deeply human and at the same time deeply terrifying might be one of the essences that the judges of the Nobel Prize are looking for. All in all, reading Voices from Chernobyl was an incredible experience, even if it wasn't quite fun. so I would recommend picking it up, and I am very tempted to read more of Svetlana Alexievich's books. I am particularly interested in her book about the Second World War. She wrote 2 of them. I am particularly interested in the one that focuses on women, but there's also another one about children. I might not be up to reading a book about children being impacted by the Second World War anytime soon, but reading about women is, I mean, some of this channel is just that. I really enjoy reading about the stories of people like me. Next up is Alice Munro, the Canadian winner of the 2013 Nobel Prize in Literature. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate the support and that some people are joining this very small channel and this project that I am really passionate about, and I'm very happy to have people joining me on this little journey. Please leave a comment if you have any recommendations regarding the following Nobel laureates. Just a little reminder, I am reading all of the books from female Nobel laureates in literature, and I'm going in reverse chronological order. So after Alice Munro, we will be continuing with Herta Müller, and so on and so forth. So if you have any recommendations from any of these authors, I would love to hear it. That's it for now. Thank you for watching. See you next week. Bye!